Welcome. We're doing a deep dive today into the material you shared with us, all focusing on New York City.
That's right. And it's fascinating stuff. Not just the tourist view, but really getting under the skin of it.
Exactly. Your sources paint this picture of, well, fascinating contradictions, really. Ambition and chaos, bluntness and help.
Mm-hmm. So our mission here is to unpack those layers, the history, the culture, the people, how it's changing, all based on what you've given us.
There's a lot here. Origins, landmarks,
Mm.
the cultural vibe, the people themselves, and even where it might be going.
Definitely. So where should we start? The beginning seems logical.
Yeah, let's do that. Your sources take us way back, before it was, the New York we think of.
Right. It started as New Amsterdam, Dutch colony, early 1600s.
But importantly, the sources make clear the land wasn't empty.
Oh, absolutely not. The Lenape people were there long, long before any Europeans arrived. Generations. That context is crucial.
It really is. Then 1664 happens.
Yes. The British arrive, take control, and rename it New York, after the Duke of York. A pretty major shift.
And things accelerated quickly from there.
Massively. Your material points out that by the late 1800s, it wasn't just a growing city, it was the immigration capital of the world.
The numbers are just staggering. Yeah. Ellis Island.
Over 12 million people processed. Just try to imagine that.
It's almost impossible. The sheer volume of hope, fear, different languages, everything pouring into one place.
And your sources capture that perfectly. They frame it as the gateway to the American dream. That history is baked into the city's DNA.
You feel that weight even now. And it's reflected in the symbols, the landmarks, right? But again, your sources say it's deeper than just famous sites.
Much deeper. They really explore the meaning behind them. Take the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a gift or a monument. For immigrants on those ships, seeing it after weeks at sea, that was hope personified. It was the gateway.
That's powerful. Then you get the complete opposite energy, like Times Square.
Right. Described in your material as just pure chaos and capitalism unleashed. A total sensory assault, almost.
Which makes the contrast with Central Park even starker.
Exactly. The sources call it where the city breathes. A deliberate, vital green space right in the middle of all that intensity.
Like the city knew it needed it to survive.
Mm-hmm. And the buildings themselves tell stories. The Empire State Building.
Built during the Great Depression.
Yeah, talk about ambition. Your sources highlight it as this monument to just pushing forward, aiming high, even when things seemed impossible.
And the Brooklyn Bridge, that must have been mind-blowing back then.
Oh, absolutely. Connecting Brooklyn and Manhattan over the East River in the 1800s. The material says it was like sci-fi for its time. A real leap.
So beyond the physical structures, let's talk culture. Your sources are really strong on this, calling the city an engine for culture.
And they emphasize it's not just, museums and opera, though it has those too.
It's everything.
It's everything. High and low, formal and informal. Polished Broadway shows, yes, but also raw underground rap battles in the Bronx. It's lived culture.
And the food. That part of your sources was amazing.
Wasn't it? The claim that you could eat food from a different country every single night for a whole year.
And still have places left over. It's hard to even comprehend that level of diversity.
And the examples are so vivid. Bagels, obviously, halal carts on seemingly every corner, those amazing Dominican breakfasts, dim sum in Flushing.
It's a world tour on a plate.
And the craziest part, as your material points out, is you might find half that stuff all in one city block. That concentration is just unique.
Yeah, but ultimately, your sources seem to argue that the real essence isn't the buildings or even the food, it's the people.
Absolutely. That's the core takeaway, I think. The human element.
And the diversity there is just as staggering. What was the number? Over 800 languages.
Over 800. Making it, according to your sources, the most linguistically diverse place on Earth. Just imagine the conversations happening constantly.
And what about the New Yorker personality? Your sources touch on that too.
They do. They don't shy away from the stereotypes, Fast talking, blunt, maybe a bit sarcastic.
Definitely heard that before.
Right. But then there's this twist of your material highlights that they can also be weirdly helpful.
I love that anecdote, getting yelled at for blocking the subway door.
And then the same person immediately gives you perfect direction.
Yeah, it's that mix, isn't it? That kind of tough exterior, but underneath a willingness to engage, to help out.
It's a specific kind of energy. And it spills over into action, too.
How so?
Well, your sources describe New York as a city that acts. It doesn't just sit back. They give examples like Occupy Wall Street, the Stonewall riots, which started the modern LGBTQ plus rights movement.
Right, huge moments.
Even recent things like the huge Black Lives Matter marches that basically took over Fifth Avenue. It's a place where people physically show up for what they believe in.
So, thinking about the present and future, there was that whole narrative a couple of years ago, especially after the pandemic hit.
Oh, yeah. The "Is New York Dead" headlines.
Right. How do your sources address that?
Pretty bluntly, actually, the feeling you get from the material is that the city's collective response was basically, nice try. Resilience is kind of the default setting.
And you see evidence of that evolution.
Definitely. Your sources point to things like new tech hubs popping up, especially in Brooklyn. It's becoming a real center for innovation.
And those new green spaces, too, like Little Island.
Exactly. Creative ways to bring nature into the dense urban fabric. Plus, they mention AI technology is starting to, well, the source says, creep into everything.
Creep into everything. Like what?
Things like managing traffic flow with smarter lights, optimizing delivery routes. It's becoming embedded in the city's operations.
Interesting. And what about bigger challenges like climate change?
That's a major focus in your material. They talk about building resilient parks that can handle flooding, constructing seawalls for protection, and even quite futuristic ideas like underground tunnels just for freight to get trucks off the streets.
Wow. So the city is actively trying to future-proof itself.
Very much so. Planning seems key.
Okay, so if we pull all these threads together, what are the big lessons your sources suggest New York teaches us?
Well, one major theme is that contradiction is not only okay, it might even be necessary.
How do you mean?
Like, chaos and creativity aren't opposites here, they feed each other. Stress and inspiration can exist literally side by side on the same block sometimes.
And that's driven by...
Diversity, according to your sources. It's not just something the city has, it's the engine. It's the default state, and that's what generates the energy, the constant change.
But not just tolerated, it's fundamental.
Precisely. And the final point seems to be that the city changes you. Even just visiting leaves a mark, makes you adapt somehow.
That really resonates.
Yeah.
Well, that brings our deep dive into New York via your sources toward a close. We've covered its past, its present pulse, and glimpses of its future.
It's been fascinating to explore it through this material. If you found this interesting, maybe share it with someone else who knows New York or is just curious about complex places.
Yeah, our goal is always to look at the information you provide and really unpack what it's telling us, what it means.
So maybe a final thought to take away, inspired by the sources. Think about where in your own life or maybe your community or work, embracing a bit of that New York-style contradiction, letting chaos spark something new, could be valuable.
Or how making diversity the active driving force, not just a background fact, could unlock potential. Something to mull over, courtesy of the city that, as your sources show, never really stops.